what today's talk title is? Oh, gosh. Yeah, this is how many people read the newsletter and remember it. Maybe you read it. What is it? Who's in charge? Yeah, yeah, nah. Who's in charge? That's the question. But before we get into who's in charge, I want to ask you a couple other questions. First of all, do you know how many thoughts that you have per day, the average person? Way too many. The studies show anywhere from 6,000 to 70,000. I'm like, well, that's a big gap, right? Different studies, different answers. It doesn't matter really how many thoughts you have a day. The important thing is to realize just how many thoughts you have a day, right? Now, next question. How many of those thoughts are actually the same thoughts, or do you have a variety of thoughts throughout the day? Which is it? Variety. Okay, we got same. Some of them are the same. Sometimes you're on that loop, same thoughts. And some of us have different. Sometimes you can, in a minute, have thoughts that are on one side or the other, right? You can hear the voice saying this or the voice saying this. Voice, thoughts, I think they're the same thing. I mean, think about it. Who's the voice in your head? Is it perhaps remnants of your mom? I know my dad who would say, "What's wrong with you?" When I hear that, I'm like, "Dad, go back to Ohio." Just, Or it's your inner critic speaking. I know you don't have one, but, in case one shows up. Maybe you have the voice of a counselor or a friend or perhaps a minister in your head. Where, and those voices and those thoughts, how many different thoughts that you're having. And with all of those thoughts, who's in charge? Who's in charge? Which voice gets the weight? And it could be different situations that you'll have more weight with one voice or one thought. So these are the questions that we're going to explore today in the Who's in Charge as we begin our August study of the power of power. Now that sounds a bit redundant, but it is the spiritual power. And my intention this year has been to share one of the 12 powers that co-founder of Unity, Charles Fillmore, came up with when he was studying the metaphysics of the Bible, and he saw the different disciples having different spiritual abilities, which each of us have, but we're not really conscious of them. And so you're using the power of power, but usually not consciously. So my intention this year is to help you understand these powers greater and then be able to use them consciously in your life. So when you first think of the word power, you might think of something like power hungry, controlling others in a negative way. There is that overdeveloped or egocentric power where it's a person who is over-controlling about their life, wants to control other people's lives, is usually very vocal and domineering, uses power to force ideas and to get their results, and usually at the expense of others. Do you know of anybody that might fit that over? Does anybody come to mind? Maybe. Have you ever been over-controlling or domineering? Come on. You've had moments and times, and it happens. It's not a bad thing. It's just to be aware that there are moments where we all have that ability to want to control things. It's part of being human. The other side of the coin is that you might be the one that is giving your power away. Somebody who doesn't have good mastership of their life, who allows themselves to be controlled by their feelings and their actions, doesn't really have a sense of control, and feels often helpless and like a victim. Also looks outside of themselves for answers. Anybody know people like that? Yes. Have you ever been like that? Yes. It's okay. You know, again, it's just awareness. We're not into judging here at Unity. That's just the thing that we do, is to look at things and be, isn't that very good? Isn't that interesting, is the phrase that we use when we want to stay neutral and out of judgment. So, power, the actual definition of power is to take control, the ability to make something happen, but also to have control over others. Now, we have a book that I didn't bring out here, but it's called Power Up Your Life. And Power Up Your Life is one of the 2 books that I like to recommend if you would like to further your study on the 12 powers. In Power Up Your Life, it's not the power over others, it's the power over yourself. The definition: power is the power to claim mastery, to claim authority of thoughts, feelings, and beliefs. And 3, to express your preferences and your prerogatives. That sounds better than controlling others, right? It's being able to have control of oneself and not be controlled by the outer world. The part of the body where that power is located is in the throat chakra. It's in the throat or the tongue. It's where you speak your power. And the color I'm wearing today is purple. Purple is the color of power. So in this book that is called Divine Mastery, the other book that you can get, and I highly suggest, to look at these 12 powers. Linda Martella Whitsett breaks down the power of power into 3 aspects. To express and use your power is to have the power of concentration, self-mastery, and spiritual authority. So I'm going to be covering concentration, that power, and more of it in depth next week, and then self-mastery on the 4th Sunday of the month. But today we're going to go into the spiritual authority. Now, authority, what does that mean? Well, the authority is the definition in the dictionary: the power or right to give orders, to make decisions. It is the power to influence or command thought, opinion, or behavior. The difference between ordinary authority and spiritual authority is very slight, but very important, because it's the addition of 3 words. Those words are "we have within." Spiritual authority is the power we have within to make decisions, to command our thoughts, behavior, and opinion from our higher self, our God self. Jesus called it the Father within. You have a name for that part of you that is the highest part of you, that is breathing you right here and now. I'm going to share an example of this outer power and the ordinary authority versus the spiritual authority. Back in, I think it was 1987, I was 27, I went to Cleveland to meet some friends at a gay bar that I had never been to, but I thought I would go and find my friend Tina, which I didn't really know Cleveland, but I was driving at night, about midnight, and I'm driving, and I think I need to turn here, so I'm driving, and, you know, I take a left turn, and then down the road, down the road a bit, I see these flashing red lights, and I know I haven't done anything wrong, so I pull over. Well, it pulls over behind me, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, I don't know what's going on. So I roll down the window, and I'm like, yes, officer, and he's like, get me your, and I'm looking for my license. It's in my bag, and he's like, get out of the car, is what he said. And I was like, my social security number is, because there's been times where if you don't have your ID, they can look you up with your social security number. He's like, get out of the car. And next thing I know, the door is open of my car, and they're pulling me out of the car. Now, these two guys do not have police uniforms on. They just have blue uniforms. And their cop car does not have any identification on it. I am scared out of my mind. You got it. I'm thinking this is just a thing, and I'm going to end up dead in a ditch tomorrow. I am frightened, and I say, help, right? I'm like in midnight. I'm help. And I'm like, who's going to help people who may be looking like police officers? And they have me in handcuffs, and I'm like, are you? And they're dragging me to their car, and I'm like, are you going to kill me just to get me in your car? And he goes, if we have to. And they throw me into the back of the car. Now, I sit up, and I think I'm just shaking and watching as they go through my car, and I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen here. So I don't even know what they've charged me with. So we end up there. They leave my car. I'm in the back seat. They drive me. When we got to the police station, I was so happy. In fact, I said, I'm so grateful to be here because I didn't believe that you were police officers. Breathalyzer was 0. I think I had a roach in the car, some diet pills. They didn't tell me what, I supposedly made a left turn where there was an arrow saying no. I don't even know. But, because I didn't know what I'd done. All I know is now I'm in a jail cell. I call my dad, and, I was just like, what has happened here? I got taken to another facility, and I learned some things in this process. Like, you don't even have to be doing anything to have stuff happen. And I also learned a few other things about how to keep your mind from going crazy in this opportunity. My dad hired the best lawyers ever, and we were going to fight it and went to court a couple different times, but found out that I was up against Batman and Robin, super cops of Cleveland, Ohio. It was my word versus their word. Okay, so I had a cut-off shirt. I think I was probably profiled, short butch haircut, They just took me. And so when it got down to it, it was like, this is going on forever. My dad's paying all this money. And they wanted me to apologize. I was like, okay, I wanted it to be over. That was, after a while, it was like, that's enough. And so my apology was, I'm sorry for the whole thing. I'm just sorry that this even ever happened. And then they reduced it to a misdemeanor of resisting arrest and something on the turn. Nothing else stuck. The point of this story is now I'm scared of police officers. Okay? After this experience, it has put fear into my heart. Now, I also know metaphysics, and I know that what I focus on and what am afraid of, I will bring into my life. This is how this works. So, having that fear and going, I don't want to deal with this and carry this vibration where I'm going to attract more problems like this one. So I started, every time I saw a police officer, I, in my mind, said, peace officer, peace officer, peace officer, peace officer, peace officer, peace officer, peace officer. And I got to the point where police are peace officers now. But I had to do the spiritual authority, taking command of my thoughts and create a new thought. That was my authority. I couldn't change the outer authority of what they did, but I have the power within me, just like each and every one of you can have the power to change the vibration and your focus through what you are choosing. You have a spiritual authority within, as we all do. So the question again is, who is in charge? Who's in charge? There's really actually only one real answer. Your spiritual authority and spiritual power of power is to recognize God's self, the divine within. You think you're a human being? I got news for you. You're a spiritual being walking around in an earth suit, okay? There isn't 40 people here in the sanctuary. There's one person, one being here. It is the power that is breathing you. Spirit just needed you and you and you and every single one of you to be its hands, its feet, its expression here on earth. It needs us to be its expression. That is how Spirit expresses, by means of you and you and you. And the thing is we have not been so convinced as Jesus was of who he really was. And he went around and tried to get people to get it. But, you know, we've been conditioned to say, we're human beings, I'm only human. It's like, that's what we got conditioned to think. But it's not the truth of us. I'm a God being. And so are you, Carol, and Alex, and Pam, and Tom, and Geraldo. You can't be anything else. Yeah, and Dominique, and every one of you. I want you to say, I'm a divine being. I'm ready to realize that now. With no doubt. Yippee-doo. I'm going to go back to Linda Martella-Whitsett because she talks about being a minister and how, you know, when you walk into maybe a hospital room and you see, or a hospice situation, it's hard not to see that person lying there in the condition that they're in. However, my work and your work is to see past the condition, to see the truth. Do not judge by appearances, said the great Ray Shower. You judge by the truth of who they are. I saw someone yesterday who was in a condition I had no idea that that was her condition, but all I saw was beauty and vibrancy in this person who's basically been confined in a bed. But there was only divinity speaking to me and me to her. Linda Martella-Whitsett says, I energetically cloak myself with spiritual authority. I sense the distinction between my human personality and my infinite self, or divine identity. I reduce my focus on my personality. I turn my attention away from myself, and I become completely interested in what is important, what is the truth, what will uplift, inspire. I become interested in presence, the presence. It was Jesus' presence, more than his words, that people could catch his divine nature. He stood solidly divine. When he walked by this woman, he didn't speak any words to her, but she reached out to touch his garment. And what happened? What was that about? What happened was the woman who reached for his cloak, believing that if she touched it, it would heal her. She reached into Jesus' divine identity to glimpse her own divine identity. Jesus' spiritual authority came not from his personality and not from his intellect. His authority came from the Father, his source of inner wisdom. You all have a God self. My word for the divine is God self. You might have higher power. You might say divine Father or divine Mother or universe or spirit. But you know that there is something greater than yourself. But it is yourself, your higher self. And we need to be in that more than the personality and the condition of what we've been told. We too must partner power with wisdom in order to be centered in spiritual truth. You don't have to become a minister to assert spiritual authority. No, you don't. You can visit a friend, a relative in the hospital, and you can be that presence, standing in the truth of their wholeness, of their divinity. See past the condition. See the spiritual truth of their beingness. And they can pick that up and begin to feel it and become more of that themselves. We can encourage people by our presence, by our solidity in knowing the truth. That means you probably got some work to do. I know I'm working on it all the time. How do I remember that I am the spiritual God being that I am? And so are you, despite what you're showing me. You know, even our presidential candidates are God beings who have some interesting behavior and have forgotten who they are. But if I get to say, you're the divine, and you're the divine, and you're the divine, and you can't be anything else despite what I think in my personality, what can happen? You know, this is called the Olympics of spiritual authority. You are in the Olympics, and it's not about spiritual competition. It's about cooperation and collaboration to know the truth for yourself and knowing the truth for others. You're all gold medal athletes in this spiritual knowingness of the truth of who you are and came here to be, and to remember that for yourself. I am passionate about who we are and becoming that. How do you do that? You read. You read the 5 principles. You read about how I am one with the divine. You contemplate and meditate on aspects of spirit. And then you say, I am that love. I am that peace. I am that light. Okay? And so is this person. I am that wholeness. In closing, this quote from Swami Vivekananda. The Vedanta recognizes no sin. It only recognizes error. And the greatest error, says the Vedanta, is to say, the greatest sin is to say you are weak and that you have no power and that you cannot do this or that. Spiritual authority. Claim it. You are it. You cannot not be it. Be the gold medalist of your spiritual authority. Claim and know it for yourself and the world. And stand on that platform and be the divine that you already are. Namaste.